God, I'm keeping them wide for you if it helps you at all. I'm keeping them wide too for the lead car if it helps you. Yeah, making a left turn right now. Yep. Okay. Yep, they made the other left, right. All right, thank you. Making a right. Okay. Yep. All right. And he's inside. Yep. Thank you, sir.
You're watching Sky News Today, and these are the latest pictures from New York City, where former President Donald Trump has arrived at court in found guilty by a judge of having inflated the value of a number of his assets. He is expected, as we see, in the courtroom later today. He has arrived at that courthouse in New York, and this is just one of a number of cases the former president is facing. This is a civil case that's been brought by the New York District Attorney Letitia James, who has accused Donald Trump of inflating many of his assets and his own net worth. He's not facing any criminal charges or consequences as a result of these charges. It's a civil case, but the New York Attorney General is looking for as much as $250 million in damages. It is alleged that the Trump Organization, and his two sons, Donald Jr. and Eric Trump, used false or misleading financial statements in an attempt to broker deals and obtain favorable loans, and also, as I said, bolster their net worth. Those loans were then used to purchase other properties in different parts of the United States, including that Trump Hotel in Washington on Pennsylvania, not far from the White House. Now, by way of example, one of the charges that Donald Trump is facing is the accusation that he inflated the size and value of his apartment in Trump Tower, saying that it was worth some $327 million and was 30,000 square feet. The Attorney General said that that was absurd. The apartment was actually just 11,000 square feet, and only one other apartment in the city has ever sold for more than 100 million. Now, Donald Trump, of course, is using these court appearances, and it's not necessary for him to appear at court for this today, but as has been the case in his other trials, where he's facing 4 other trials, criminal trials, for his actions while president, he does see a huge boost in the amount of money that he's able to raise from his supporters of Donald Trump, listening to his charges that all of these allegations that have been made against him are part of a witch hunt designed to not only potentially see him end up in prison, but also, of course, stop him from running for president. He is the leading Republican candidate for the 2024 presidential election, despite all the legal jeopardy that he's facing. Trump is, of course, facing another 4 charges, some very serious charges as well, including that documents case that he's facing down in Florida. He's facing charges over his actions on January the 6th, as well as a number of other indictments. He's been charged in Georgia with attempting to overturn the election results there, and he's also charged in New York as well by the District Attorney Alvin Bragg, again for his for the case involving the porn actress Stormy Daniels and Trump's involvement in that. Now, Letitia James, as I said, is the one who's brought these charges against former President Donald Trump, and she has been speaking in the past few minutes ahead of Trump arriving in court.
Donald Trump and the other defendants have committed persistent and repeated fraud. Last week, we proved that in our motion for summary judgment. Today, we will prove our other claims. My message is simple. No matter how powerful you are, no matter how much money you think you may have, no one is above the law. And it is my responsibility and my duty and my job to enforce it. The law is both powerful and fragile. And today in court, we will prove our case. I thank you all for being here. And again, justice will prevail. Thank you.
Well, that was the New York Attorney General Letitia James there giving her remarks, saying that no one is above the law ahead of the appearance in the next few minutes of former President Donald Trump. We know he has entered the building. You're seeing live shots from inside that courthouse. Trump will be making his way up to the beginning of this trial, which is all about Donald Trump's, the accusations that he has actually been inflating his net worth and, as the New York Attorney General Letitia James suggested, created false and misleading financial statements for a period of a number of years. That seems to suggest that his statements make his worth appear to be $850 million to $2.2 billion higher than it actually was. The Attorney General, in her summation of the reason why she brought this case, says that Mr. Trump was operating in a fantasy world, not a real world. Now, of course, as I said, it's not a civil trial. This is a civil trial, not a criminal trial that Donald Trump's facing here, so he will not be sent to prison. But the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, is looking for compensation to be paid by Donald Trump, and also he does risk losing those properties that he owns in Trump Tower, as well as the ability to be able to do business in New York City for the next 5 years. Now, as we continue to wait and see, you can see the assembled media there lined up for Donald Trump's appearance in court ahead of that fraud trial getting underway. We're just going to come away from these pictures in New York for now, but we'll be back to them as soon as former President Trump does appear.
don't have to. Don't worry about it. This would be good, like, you know,
I have no idea who she is.
Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million. He has failed to acknowledge that television continue to fight. We hope to get some level of law and order in this country.
Ashley, go with him down.
His two adult sons of inflating their assets by as much as $1.9 billion. Now, in the last couple of minutes, one of Trump's lawyers has been speaking outside of court.
Hi, how are you? Good morning. I'll be brief. I have to go in. But we just heard Letitia James make comments that nobody is above the law. I think that's quite rich, considering that anybody that's a Democrat, including the Biden family, seems to be above the law every day. What we are witnessing is election interference of somebody who is leading in the polls the more they hit him. So keep hitting him, because he's going to keep fighting. At the end of the day, we have a judge that has told us that Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million. He has failed to acknowledge what the appellate division has said, and we will continue to fight in hopes that there is some level of law and order in this country at this point. Although my faith in the system is weary, I do have faith in Donald Trump. Thank you very much.
Letitia James campaigned on getting Trump. That's what this is about. Election interference. Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, Fani Willis, Merrick Garland, and Joe Biden. This is designed to do nothing else but stop President Trump as he's leading by 10 points in the general election. We have a renegade judge here who's ignoring ruling of the appeals court. President Trump's assets are worth way more than what the court would have you believe. But this is all about 2024. Do not get it confused.
This is nothing more than election interference. Democrats know that President Trump is leading Joe Biden by wide margins. and this is the only way that they can stop them. President Trump is going to be defiant, he's going to take a stand, and he's going to fight back like he always has.
Thank you.
We're listening there to some of Donald Trump's legal team, Alina Haber as well as Jason Miller there, defending Mr. Trump ahead of this fraud trial. We heard a little while ago from the Attorney General saying that no one is above the law, but you heard from Donald Trump's legal representatives there. They are suggesting that this is nothing but election interference, saying that, of course, buying into this idea and supporting Donald Trump in his assertion that this is all part of a witch hunt and, as I say, saying this is election interference. Of course, Donald Trump, the front-runner in the 2024 Republican nomination. Let's bring in our US correspondent, Mark Stone, who is in New York for us. And Mark, look, Donald Trump is in the courthouse. We're expecting him to appear any minute. We've heard from Letitia James, the Attorney General, and also Trump's team there. And I guess, you know, apart from the sort of the legal element of all of this is a fraud trial, the politics of this are really at the forefront.
Yeah, look, I think the most important thing to point out today is that Donald Trump was not compelled to be here. It was his choice as to whether he turned up or not, and he has chosen to turn up. And I think that speaks volumes about the upturned nature of American politics right now. It shows you that he believes that every time he is in a courtroom, his polling goes up, that it is good for him. It was summed up, I think, by his lawyer there outside court, who said, keep hitting him because he's going to keep fighting. They want this publicity. They believe that this is good for him politically. And they know that around the country, not here in New York, of course, a democratic city, but around the country, his support base is rallied every time he appears in court. And so that is one clear reason why he has made a decision to be here for the first day of this civil trial here in New York City. More than that, though, this is personal for Donald Trump because it has already been ruled in a pre-trial ruling by the judge here in New York that he has committed fraud and that his property base here in the heart of the city that he has called home since he was a child is now in real jeopardy. The prospect of him perhaps being forced to sell Trump Tower up on Fifth Avenue, where he woke up this morning and from where he traveled down here to the courthouse this morning. He could have to sell Trump Tower and his other assets here in New York because a judge has concluded that he is fraudulent, that he did inflate the value of those properties in order to gain loans from banks. Very, very serious charges against him. But you heard that key defense, if you can call it that, from his team on the steps just now, that they believe this is all a political witch hunt. At every turn, Donald Trump's strategy now is to cry witch hunt and to do it as loudly as possible, to confuse the voters, to avoid the detail of each individual trial, to wrap them all together as one big witch hunt to bring him down, because he believes Joe Biden is trying to bring him down in the courthouse because he thinks that Joe Biden is worried he won't be able to do it in the election.
Thank you very much, Mark. Mark Stone there. This is Sophie Ridge, because we're taking you straight back.
Step to the right. Barricade. Intact.
Yes, I am. Okay. Thank you very much. This is a continuation of the single greatest witch hunt of all time. We have a rogue judge who rules that properties are worth a tiny fraction, 1/100th, a tiny fraction of what they actually are. We have a racist attorney general who's a horror show, who ran on the basis that she was going to get Trump before she even knew anything about me. She used this to run for governor. She failed in her attempt to run for governor. She had virtually no polling. She came back and she said, well, now I'll go back to get Trump again. And this is what we have. It's a scam. It's a sham. Just so you know, my financial statements are phenomenal. They are actually less in terms of the numbers used than the actual net worth. The actual net worth is substantially more. No bank was affected. No bank was hurt. They don't even know why they have to be involved. And they've so testified. They can't believe that they're involved because they were paid back on time. There were no defaults. There were no problems. And it was like a perfect client. In the meantime, people are being murdered all over the sidewalks of New York. There was no victim here. The banks were represented by the best, biggest, most prestigious law firms in the state of New York, actually in the country. Some of the biggest and best law firms, in all cases, the biggest and best law firms. That's who represented them. The banks got back their money. Again, there was never a default. There was never a problem. Everything was perfect. There was no crime. The crime is against me because we have a corrupt district attorney, but we have a corrupt attorney general, and it all comes down from the DOJ. They're totally coordinated this in Washington because I'm the leading candidate. I'm leading Biden by 10 points, and I'm leading the Republicans by 50 and 60 points. That's pretty much, they say, over. I never accept that, but they say it's over. This has to do with election interference, plain and simple. They're trying to damage me so that I don't do as well as I'm doing in the election. Our country's gone to hell. We have a country that's in decline, serious decline. We have a man running our country who has no clue, doesn't know what he's doing, and you know it better than anybody because you have to cover him. What they've done with open borders, what they've done with interest rates, and taxes. It's a disgrace. So what we have here is an attempt to hurt me in an election. It's an attempt to hurt me in an election. This never happened before, where President of the United States leaves office and gets indicted. And the reason I got indicted was that I ran. If I didn't run, I'd be sitting right now at a beach like Biden does every time, even though he's supposed to be working. So very simply put, it's a witch hunt. It's a disgrace. We have a corrupt attorney general in this state. You see how she does. This trial was railroaded and fast-tracked. This trial could have been brought years ago, but they waited till I was right in the middle of my campaign. The same with other trials and indictments. It's all run by DOJ, which is corrupt in Washington. Everything goes through them. They're all corrupt people. Frankly, our country is corrupt. And that's one of the reasons I'm running. We're going to straighten it out. They have one property that's worth anywhere from 50 to 100 times what this judge put down as a value. Put down a value $18 million, and the property's probably worth, could be anywhere from 50 to 100 times more than that. And a lot of those numbers could even be low. We have other properties, the same thing, so he devalued everything. I didn't even put in my best asset, which is the brand in terms of value. Coca-Cola, take a look at their value. They have a value. The value of their brand is more than everything else put together. My brand is extremely valuable. I didn't even use it in my financials. If I wanted to build up a financial statement, I would have built it up by using brand in addition to everything else. We have the greatest properties. We have among the greatest properties in the world, and I have to go through this for political reasons. This judge is a politician. He comes out of the clubs. He's running unopposed. The reason he's unopposed is because he's getting Trump. They always run opposed. He's getting Trump. The bosses say, don't run against this guy. He's doing great. He's getting Trump. But he overplayed his hand, and he should be investigated for what he's done. What he did in undervaluing these properties is a disgrace to our nation. This shouldn't be a case. One other thing. We have a clause in the contract which tells, essentially, buyer beware. The contract is very, very, if you take a look and you speak to the banks, and you will, I hope you speak to the banks, because the banks got paid in full. I hope you speak to the banks. But we have a clause in the contract. It's like a buyer beware clause. It says when you take a look at the financial statement, don't believe anything you read. This is up front. Don't believe anything you read. Some people call it a worthless clause because it makes the statement and anything you read in the statement worthless. It says go out and do your own research. Go out and do your own due diligence. You have to study the statement carefully. Do not believe anything. In fact, it's so strong that people read it and they don't even accept it. They don't even want it. They don't even use it. It's called a disclaimer clause. It's very common. If you put it in, if you don't have time to do statements, or even if you do have time, people like to have it. This is what's called a full disclaimer. We disclaim the financial statements. But even with a full disclaimer, which immediately takes you out of any fraud situation and any litigation. And by the way, when the Attorney General found out about the disclaimer clause, she said, that's okay, let's go forward anyway. It's good publicity. These are corrupt people we're dealing with, the most corrupt people. We have a great company. I built a great company. It's got tremendous value. It's got some of the greatest real estate assets in the world. And now I have to go before a rogue judge as a continuation of Russia, 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 as a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time. And I don't think the people of this country are going to stand for it. If I weren't leading in all the polls, or if I weren't running, I wouldn't have any of these cases. I wouldn't be seeing you this morning. But I'll be seeing a lot of you, because this is a horrible thing that's happening to our country, and we've got to get it straightened away. So we'll go in and see our rogue judge, and we'll listen to this man. And I think most people get it. People are getting it. I can tell you the voters getting it, because every time they give me a fake indictment, I go up in the polls, and that's never happened before. But this is a disgrace and you ought to go after this Attorney General because she's turning off everybody from coming in. You know, I don't know if you take a look at the outflow of business. Businesses are fleeing New York because of horrible, horrible attorney generals and judges like we have. They go to other places where they can be treated fairly and with respect. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Back up. Everyone carefully back up.
As corrupt, describing Letitia James, Black Attorney General, as racist, saying that everything, these indictments, is a scam, and it's because he is running for election and is leading in the polls. Describing himself as a perfect client, saying that all the banks in this fraud case that he's facing have been paid. There's been no crime committed, claiming this is election interference. Of course, there are 4 outstanding indictments against Donald Trump, as well as this fraud case now in which the pre-trial judgment is that Donald Trump did commit fraud and did inflate the value of his assets. Let's bring in our US correspondent, Mark Stone, who is outside the courtroom there. Mark, really, where to begin with former President Trump? They're standing in a courthouse railing against the judiciary, describing it as corrupt, describing the judge as rogue, describing the Attorney General as a racist.
Yes, a scam and a sham is how he is describing it. He spoke for 8-9 minutes there inside the courtroom, enjoying the moment, enjoying the limelight. Remember, this is not a trial that he was compelled to turn up to. The fact that he has chosen to be here on day one speaks volumes for how he thinks it will go, how he thinks his base across the country will receive this. At every turn in what is now the beginning of a very lengthy legal process involving multiple trials in multiple different jurisdictions, his strategy is simple and it is blunt, to scream witch hunt at every twist and every turn, and that is what he has done here. For clarity, because it is so confusing, this is not one of the 4 criminal indictments that we have been talking about a great deal over the past few months. One in Miami, one in Georgia, in Atlanta, and one in DC, and one in here. Those are the criminal indictments against him. The trials for those have not yet begun. This is a civil case for fraud, much of which has already been settled because the judge last week, as you suggested, has already, in a pre-trial ruling, concluded that Donald Trump is a fraud and that he did inflate the cost or the worth of his properties here in Manhattan in order to get loans from banks. Some 200 or so different instances where he is alleged, or it is now been concluded that he did commit fraud. Now, as I say, he wasn't compelled to turn up here, but he clearly believes that politically it is worth his while doing so. As you heard him outline in court there, he is talking to his supporters across the country. He's claiming witch hunt once again, and he is saying that this is a witch hunt by the Democratic establishment out to get him because he thinks that he'll win at the ballot box, and so they're trying to take him down in the courthouse instead. The specific defense that he offered today, I think, is interesting too, because he is claiming that there is no fraud because whatever price he gave for his properties, the banks didn't mind because there was a clause in there that said it didn't matter. And crucially, he's claiming the banks have never complained. They got all their money back. They've never complained. So what's all the fuss about, essentially, is his defense here. Well, the judge has already said that that is no defense for fraud. Fraud is fraud, whether or not the banks on the other side of the alleged fraud are complaining or not. But ultimately, what we have seen here is day one, the starting gun of months and months of different trials, some civil, some some criminal, against Donald Trump in different jurisdictions, where we will hear a central defense from him: witch hunt.
Mark, in New York for now, thank you very much.